So a little while back, not too long ago, I made a video called "What if Vegeta wasn't super prideful?" But then I saw a bunch of people kind of doing this video of Vegeta being good or Vegeta being sent to Earth, but that's a kind of a totally different video in itself. So I was thinking, what would have happened if Vegeta was good from the start? And how much of the series would actually change? And I'm gonna say it off bat right now, that not as much as you think would actually change with Vegeta being good from the start. At least not as much as you would think with such a drastic change in Vegeta's character. Now, we would start from the very beginning, of course. Vegeta is born, and he goes through the motions of being a Saiyan Prince, which gives him a bit of an ego, but at the same time, also gives him his Saiyan pride. But in terms of the squad that he runs with, being that of Raditz and Nappa, he actually isn't mean, messed up to them at all. He's actually pretty calculated and, well, relatively good to them. Don't get me wrong, Vegeta's not some peaceful, amazing, go-lucky person like Goku is, but he is a good person. So he knows right from wrong. He knows there's certain things that he shouldn't do in conquering planets, and maybe he would even be hesitant in conquering planets themselves. So when he would have a group with Raditz and Nappa, it would actually be a pretty productive group. It wouldn't be some sort of weird dynamic where everyone feels as if they're being kind of dominated by Vegeta. That Vegeta is way up here and you're way down there. I would say that his journeys to different planets would go differently just because of how he is and that he's a better person. But it's hard to say that for sure and at 100% undoubtable kind of thing, because at the end of the day, we don't necessarily know that much about the journeys that Vegeta went on with Nappa and Raditz. We know that he dominated planets, killed off a couple races most likely, but the only thing that we know in specific is what happened with the journey eventually meeting with Goku. When he was younger, we don't really know that much. But I would say that he probably would be a bit hesitant to absolutely killing off a whole race or a whole species. He would probably more kind of decide to be within them and learn from them, or maybe even kind of gain from them, as long as he's not affecting their lifestyle or killing them. Like I said, he is relatively good, so he does want to benefit from capturing or benefit from kind of being around these people or different species, but he's not going to outright just murder all of them. And Nappa and Raditz would have no choice to basically follow along, that making them a little bit better as a person as well. Now, with that said, how does this affect the world of Dragon Ball Z? Obviously, we know that Raditz gets sent to Earth, so there is an argument that maybe Raditz getting sent to Earth goes a little bit better. Maybe Raditz doesn't actually try and kill Goku or kidnap his child. He maybe would talk to Goku, talk to him about basically what's going on, about Frieza, about what Frieza did, and about how he's a tyrant and more or less just ruling over the Saiyan race. And once bringing this up and saying that Goku is actually a Saiyan, Raditz would be in more of a place that he feels that he doesn't have to hurt his brother, and that Goku doesn't really have to hurt him. Maybe Raditz even stays there for a year's time, working with Goku, actually training together, and so on and so forth, because they do believe that they need to get stronger to take down Frieza. And when Vegeta and Nappa would come, that would be another point of contention, working together. And it wouldn't be no force work together. Normally, in normal canon, they want Goku to more or less go and help them, but they want to force Goku. They want Goku to do it their way. But this time around, Goku would kind of have a larger say in it, and we would also have a Raditz, Nappa, and Vegeta staying all together on top of having the Z Fighters. This could mean a lot. And when I mean a lot, I mean a lot. Because the main reason would be nobody necessarily knows about the Dragon Balls. Of course, Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz could eventually figure out these Dragon Balls and what's going on, but Frieza would actually never know about the Dragon Balls. And in my opinion, if he ever goes to Namek, at least I know some of you guys believe this too, that the Namekians would rather die than even give up their Dragon Ball secrets. So it would really just be a matter of time and place until Frieza gets to Earth. And that's where it kind of gets a little fuzzy. Do we think that these 4 Saiyans, being that of Goku, Vegeta, Raditz, and Nappa, and then on top of the Z Fighters and stuff like that, will be strong enough by the time Frieza gets to Earth? Because that's the real main question here. If they will be strong enough when Frieza gets to Earth. Or if he gets to Earth. He might not be on Earth or might not find Earth for a matter of a year. Maybe 6 months. Shoot, it could even be 5 years. We don't know that for a 100% certainty. But if we say that Frieza doesn't show up for a while, I do believe that if you have 4 Saiyans training, including someone like Gohan as well, of course, a half Saiyan, training together non-stop, trying to work together to get stronger, to prepare for an incoming threat that nobody truly knows how strong really he is, I could assume that even without Kaioken, Goku would get drastically stronger. Same thing with Vegeta, same thing with Nappa, and same thing with Raditz. We know that when Saiyans are able to fight with each other and train with each other, the growth is exponential. And where they are now, I truly believe over a course of a year, 2 years, whatever you could think of, would be a massive step for all of them. That includes someone like Bulma eventually coming up with a gravity chamber, because Vegeta obviously there to give her the idea that Planet Vegeta was actually 10 times gravity, which makes sense that all the Saiyans are relatively strong in strength. Now, with all that said, he can get up to 100, 200, 300 times Earth's gravity, and that would make all of them, plus the training together, drastically more powerful. Now, are they strong enough to take on a final form Frieza? Or at least individually? I'm not so sure. So, it depends on how long you take in length. If it's only a year, I would say most likely not. But as a collective, and as Vegeta does have his Great Ape form, we could actually see maybe Vegeta defeating Frieza in this timeline. Or at least of Frieza that comes to Earth, which would in turn most likely bring King Cold to Earth as well. Killing both of them would lead to more or less a pretty good outcome, at least for the Z Fighters. But now we're dealing with something a little different. The androids. So the androids are a little bit of an issue just because of a couple reasons. They don't all have Super Saiyan, or at least not quite yet, and Trunks would introduce Super Saiyan, being that would be most likely the first time they see it. Because in my opinion, they would be strong enough to actually take on Frieza with Great Ape, not needing actually the whole Super Saiyan modifier. Now, with that said, this would set them behind in terms of actually kind of having Super Saiyan and progressing in Super Saiyan, excuse me. But even though they are a little bit behind, it does make up for it that they have Nappa, Raditz as extra people, and a good Vegeta. Because a good Vegeta would not leave on his own by himself to do his own thing, to train on his own, to get Super Saiyan. He would work with Goku, with Raditz, with Nappa, to learn Super Saiyan, to gain it, and try their best to even further Super Saiyan. And in my opinion, this is where it kind of meshes with the idea of Vegeta not being as prideful as normal. Being good doesn't mean that he's not super prideful, but he's just not as prideful as he was in canon. Meaning, training with Goku, and training with Nappa, and training with Raditz for the next, 3 years, or however long they have until the androids truly show up, depending on when you think Frieza would even arrive in the first place, of course. So, you would more or less see those 4 Saiyans plus Gohan gain unproportional amounts of strength. And that would include Super Saiyan. Now, how far along would they get in terms of Super Saiyan? Well, I'm not 100% sure. But to be safe, I would most likely put it at a grade 1. I don't see them getting to grade 2 or perfected Super Saiyan throughout this time. But I definitely could see them putting up a pretty good fight against the androids. Yes, the androids are going to be stronger than them, but you have 4 Super Saiyans, actually 5 if you include Trunks, and also 6 if you think Gohan would actually gain Super Saiyan in this timeline with more training partners and the kind of drive to train even more because of the kind of in-between with Frieza and the androids back to back. Now, with that said, they would still most likely lose to the androids, just like in canon, and it would lead to a very similar outcome with Cell. But just in my opinion, the outcome with Cell would be a little bit different because Vegeta and Trunks, when they go into the time chamber together, would be a lot better for both of them training. Most likely gaining a perfected Super Saiyan or maybe even further beyond that. But with Vegeta and Trunks actually training together, because in my opinion, that is what happened. They didn't really train together. I know Dragon Ball Super said that, or Trunks remarked that, oh, how could I forget the time that I trained with you, father, blah, blah, blah. But we all know how Vegeta was at that time. I think it's BS to think that Trunks actually trained properly with Vegeta during that time, especially in the time chamber. I don't think it makes sense, and I don't think the personality of Vegeta in the normal canon of Dragon Ball would ever train with his son that he doesn't really dignify as his son. Or at least he doesn't like the idea of it because he's kind of disappointed and he doesn't want to step up to the plate as an actual father. But that's a totally different topic for a totally different time. But this is why I believe the training in the hyperbolic time chamber would actually matter for Trunks and Vegeta, and drastically at that. And when you would lead into the next fight with Cell, it's a very big idea with, would he allow semi-perfect Cell to transform? And if Vegeta was good from the start, he most likely won it. And I would say there is a small chance he would, just based on his pridefulness, or him being prideful, and that Saiyan pride. But at the end of the day, he knows the carnage that this person, that Cell, could really inflict on the world. So I don't think a good Vegeta, at least at this time, would even allow Cell to transform, and I think he would kill him here. I think Vegeta would wipe him out, and everyone would get their turn in the hyperbolic time chamber, but that wouldn't really matter because Cell would already be perished, gone, and taken care of. Now, from this to the Buu saga, I'm gonna be honest, not much really changes. You get a lot of training with Vegeta, with Raditz, with Nappa, with Goku, but it's very repetitive from here on out. I mean, they train a lot, they fight against Buu, most likely can take down Buu just because of the training they had throughout this time. And if not, they can most likely prevent Buu from being awakened and so on. It's really not that different, because this is really when we kind of started seeing Vegeta change drastically. Obviously, we have Majin Vegeta, but that wouldn't happen because Vegeta was good initially anyways. So Majin Vegeta wouldn't even be able to kind of awaken Buu basically on his own with how the fight with Goku, and the fight with Goku wouldn't even happen in the first place because Goku didn't die. So there's a lot there that doesn't really happen because of it. And I guess there's a couple things that are negatives in terms of Goku himself. I mean, he never went to Yardrat, so he never got instant transmission. And I know instant transmission is very important in like an overall sense, but with kind of more Saiyans here, with Vegeta being more cooperative, it's kind of easier sometimes in these arcs. Buu Saga would be a breeze. They would have more Saiyans than they actually need to get a Super Saiyan God to face Beerus, and maybe Vegeta would be the Super Saiyan God. I mean, I think that would be pretty cool. Maybe Vegeta takes on Beerus. He knows of Beerus. He knows the torture that he put his father through. And since Vegeta is more of a good guy, even from the very beginning, maybe Goku allows him to gain the power of a Super Saiyan God and go head to head with the one and only God of Destruction, Beerus. Now, everything else goes very similar, if not the exact same. I mean, Frieza coming back, maybe Vegeta gets the kill, maybe he doesn't. Does it really matter at the end of the day? Frieza would still perish, and then so on and so forth, and it would go more or less exactly how it did in canon. There's nothing else after this fact that would really be affected by Vegeta being good from the start. The only main things that are affected are the early version of Dragon Ball Z, and also bringing Raditz and Nappa into the fray, which adding a couple Saiyans would just make things a little bit easier and a little bit better. Now, you could get real creative and try to get real nitty gritty with certain ideas, but in my opinion, after the Buu saga, not much really happens that is any different. So that's kind of why I believe that even Vegeta being good from the start, yes, it's a good turn of events, but it's actually not as different as you think it would be. I mean, yes, it is a little different just because you add a couple Saiyans and stuff like that, but it's not like so timeline altering where you see drastic things change, or at least in the overarching arcs of Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Super. Now, if we're talking about little things like adding people to the story and stuff like that, then yeah, it did affect the timeline a bit in that regard. But other than that, that's what I believe what would have happened if Vegeta was good from the start. Let me know what you think. Maybe I left something out that you believe Vegeta would have done, or something that would have happened because Vegeta was good. I'd love to hear it. I like hearing what you guys have to say, because I'm not perfect. Sometimes I'll leave things out, sometimes I'll forget things, but yeah, that's all I gotta say. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.